Yes.
Helio. Oh, we've already got guests. Goodness. Elibet.
We love
Nice.
Elibet.
That's awesome. We like that.
Welcome, welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Happy
Hello, hello, hello.
2021. Okay. I can't wait. There's been a lot of talk about this topic on social media. So I can't wait to hear everyone's perspective and hear the questions from everyone. Hey Noms, I see you. How you doing? So I can't wait. We'll start at exactly 6. Okay.
Hey, Tulu. Hey, Jay. Fifi. Hey, nice to see you on.
Hello, Ngandwe. Thanks for joining. Today we'll be live on Facebook. And then, so we'll be live on Facebook. So I'm excited about that. Our BiTech admin will be administering the Facebook comments that come through. So can't wait for that. We've started recording. Hi, Dee. Gibbs in the house. Gibbs is representing, guys. Lovely to see you. Thanks for joining. Okay, it's exactly 6. I just want to say good evening, everyone. You could be anywhere right now, but you decided to join us on the Let's Connect web series, which happens on the first Wednesday of every month. My name is Toela Mokosa, and I'll be sharing the panel with the lovely ladies over here. How Let's Connect started is we realized that from Cape to Cairo, we all experience the same challenges and opportunities, especially in the workplace. And this web series is here to help you navigate the challenges that you face successfully. You're gonna hear from diverse opinions from the ladies. We've got a very diverse panel today. We've got Zambia in the house, Nigeria, South Africa. So, and the thing is, wherever you are on the continent, we're all experiencing the same things. We also have a guest today, and that's Mrs. Leah Moyo Mutukwa.
Hello.
She'll be moderating. Leah, if you could please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Leah. I am an actor I'm based in London. I am really, really excited to talk about this, to have this topic basically, and to just hear from everybody on the panel. Every industry deals with this to some extent. And I'm glad to be here.
Great stuff. Next to introduce herself is Kanyisa Mdluli. Kanyi, please introduce yourself and also take us through the housekeeping.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Konnect Mdluli. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate the time, but also would love to have the conversation, so thank you. I am going to take you through quickly what the house rules are. So it is a webinar. You can interact with us by typing in your questions. Please put your questions through to the questions platform, as well as ensuring that if your comments don't get addressed, make sure that you put them in the question sections as well. I'll also take you through our sponsors. So Biotechnologies are our sponsor for the platform. We are greatly appreciative of that. And Ladybug is our sponsor for the domain. So today you'll have an opportunity to send us emails, etc. from now on. So we'll also share some content with you coming out of the sessions into the future. A little bit about me. So I am the founder of Ladybug Consulting and Ladybug Projects. As you know, we build dreams. I'm also a director at BLK Recruitment, which is going to take on a new shape and form into 2021. So watch the space, but it's primarily a recruitment and coaching business. We do career coaching as well as leadership development coaching. That's me.
And Shola Bomi, known as SB, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. We're excited to be back with Let's Connect in 2021. Wish everybody the best in the year. Yeah, my name is Shola Bomi Oriaga. People call me SB. I work in the utility space, corporate services, and yeah, I used to be in aviation and now working in the utility space, corporate services. And so excited to have this conversation today. Interesting topic. So let's dig in.
Over to you, Leah.
All right. First of all, my quick question to the panelists is, what do you do right now in terms of your job or career? Just a very brief synopsis of your environment.
Okay.
Kanye, I'll start with you.
So on a regular basis, I deal with a team of construction workers as well as clients. And what we do is we take a brief from our clients, and using that brief, we bring their construction dreams to life. And that is on the construction side. So I deal a lot with elderly gentlemen, African gentlemen, Afrikaans gentlemen, lots of gentlemen. And then on the career coaching side, I deal with a range of professionals, young entrants, as well as experienced hires, in particular, the senior experienced hires or professionals.
Shola?
Okay, my day-to-day, like I said, I work in the utility space. It is a male-dominated industry. 85% or more of the staff are guys. In the executive management group, I'm the only female. And before that, I said I worked in aviation, and it was older men, much older pilots, much older engineers, just dealing with a diverse group of older men, and just I'd had to navigate all of these men, most of my career life. So.
Okay. And Toella?
Okay. So this topic is very dear to me because I started a business, an IT consulting and business consulting business. And my husband joined me in 2018. So when it comes to emotions at the workplace, for me, this topic is it's dear to me because it's like, okay, dealing with home emotions, work emotions, all in one. So yeah. So I'm very interested to talk about how I managed to deal with it as an owner of a small business that's growing, as well as working with a spouse, and also the IT industry very male dominated.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also going to be here to share my insights on how I deal with it.
Excellent. Now, the reason I had you guys just kind of give a brief of what it is that you do is I think it'll give everybody an idea of where you're coming from. Because today we will be discussing emotional women and passionate men. What's the difference, really, between emotion and passion? Have you experienced situations where you've been referred to as emotional? I'll start backwards. So actually, Shola, I'll start with you. Have you experienced situations where you would have been called emotional in a situation where your coworker would have been called passionate?
Personally, so I think we discussed it. Personally, not in that context. I've said it, but not personally in that context. Like I said, I think when we're having our intro call, I've found that mid-level way of dealing with things where I'm not I'm able not to show my hands or show emotions in a way that it becomes a problem. But I've had that issue in a place where, like I said, well, let me just start the story again. So in a way where you're all presenting and someone is high-pitched because you're is animated, and you're trying to be as animated because we all want to be on the same tempo, and then it gets to you and you're like, just calm down, tone it down. As Kanye said, I don't know if it's the voice, and when women are animated, the voice is high pitched or something, but yeah, so that was in a personal experience, I'll say that I've experienced it. But from my what I've seen, generally how this topic comes to mind. And a good example I'll give is just watching the news, like watching CNN. And the men are like breaking news. They're stumbling over their words to explain, say the story and break the news. And the women come up and they're like calmly speaking. So you can tell that they are literally holding it together so they don't seem overly excited.
Right.
While it's fine for the men to stumble over their words, trying to get to the point they're trying to get to. So yeah, that's what comes to my mind when you think about that, showing that emotional bit between men and women. And again, so I think I read somewhere, anger is an emotion, excitement is an emotion, passion is an emotion. So whatever the woman is feeling and the man is feeling, they're all emotions. So I think that we're all allowed to show it whichever way. But I think as the conversation progresses, we'll dig into how everyone deals with all of those things, or our opinions on them. But yeah.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Tawela, I have a question for you, because one of the things you mentioned when you started was that you work with your husband, or he works with you now. How does that dynamic work, considering this is someone who knows you quite well, I would assume, and so he should be able to understand your emotions, but how does that play out for you, and how you view the situation when you have disagreements, work-related disagreements?
If I'm being very honest, my husband knows how to separate work from home.
Do you?
If we have a workplace related disagreement, it doesn't go back into the house. Yes, he does know me, but he's a very strong character. Anyone who's ever worked with my husband, even men, I think he's brought some men to cry. He's a very strong character. And so he brings that into the workplace. So as his wife and as his business partner, I've had to learn not to be so, I'm not going to use the words emotional, but sensitive. Because for me, my coping mechanism is to not take things personal, especially when I'm doing it in the workplace. I always have to remind myself that I need to be professional, one, and two, I'm here to achieve a goal, the same goal that he's trying to achieve. So whatever he's saying it's not to hurt me deliberately, but it's for us to get the goal and get it done. It does get difficult because sometimes you'll be like, how can you say that? I'm your wife, but at the same time, I'm your colleague. But the thing with me is I've had to learn my own personality and what words, aggravate me or make me upset, and to try and not take things personal. Just to give an example is, my husband has a very loud voice. He talks very loud. So sometimes I would think he's shouting when he's not shouting. That's just how he is. My own personality, I'm very passive aggressive. I'm learning to be assertive. So what tends to happen is when I decide to say, okay, today I'm going to be a bit more assertive, I tend to come out aggressive. So for me, it's one of those things when I show aggression, because I've seen men are not used of women showing aggression. You know, they step back and are like, oh, why are you being so aggressive? Yet I'm actually acting the way they would in that same setting. I'll give you an example. I work in IT and in the transport logistics space. So I was dealing with a transporter and we were having a banter. This just happened yesterday. We were having a bit of banter and I went into my aggression mode. And his comeback was, oh, sweetie, you don't have to be so aggressive. So I was like, excuse me, sweetie? You know I'm married. Why are you referring to me as sweetie? I'm not your sweetie. And he ended up saying, no, I needed to calm you down. You know, you don't have to be so aggressive. I just needed to chaff you. Now, I don't know if you know what the words chaff mean. Like I needed to sweet talk you, you know, to butter you up, you know. And you know, I was taken aback by that to say, you know, as a man, the next defense, if they're not going to be aggressive with you, they're gonna try and chaff you. So because they're not used of women being very aggressive with them. Yet he was being very aggressive with me. So I just turned the ante up and I gave him a dose of his own medicine, but he was not used to it. So he went into that chaffing mode. My husband doesn't do that. It's not chaffing, it's we're here to work.
Interesting. Osaratin, I hope I said your name correctly, has just posted that women are forced to learn and to bend themselves to everyone around them. Kanye, you said for your work, you are surrounded mostly by elderly gentlemen. How does that work for you, you know, in terms of you being forced to bend yourself, and what's, you know, using Osaratin's words, to bend yourself to their needs, or have you learned or taught yourself mechanisms to be able to manage the group, so to speak, so you're heard when you need to put a point across?
Yeah, so I'll talk from two perspectives. I think one, as a business owner, the power dynamics shift a little bit. I think when people engage with you, in particular employees, there's a level of authority. I think in the African context, we put it in that way because you pay the bills, pay the wages. So there's a different way they'd engage. But at the end of the day, you're still seen as a female, and therefore the engagement would be based on that perspective. Okay. So as an employer, it's a little bit easier to give instruction and be heard and not be seen as emotional. I made a rule early on in my career, in particular after a very interesting interaction with a then boss, that I will not raise my voice, but I will be stern and I will be firm. So we don't shout at my workplace. So already immediately everyone knows shouting is a big no-no. It's an offense actually, in the sense that we can be issued, and we have issued warnings for shouting. And the second part is, I'll just speak as having been a professional for 16, 17 years now, in the workplace, where, you know, being passionate or excitable or emotional or high maintenance, that's another word people use. Oh my goodness, you're such high maintenance. And I realized and recognized that, I think from a young age, that it actually has a lot to do with the person you're engaging with and their ability to deal with how you come across, because women are perceived to be and therefore have to be a particular way. And the minute you're not that way, there is definitely something wrong with you and not their ability to engage with a strong woman. Yeah. So I think I had to learn as a young professional that a lot of it has to do with them more than me. Now, let me not be just theoretical. The reality is when the pitch of your voice changes, when you get excited, it becomes an issue for people. So you will get told all sorts of things, described as all sorts of things. Now, what I learned from a mentor at a young age in my career was that it actually is about a game. And guys, you'll know I'll say this in every conversation. You're playing a game. Corporate is a game. Now you need to learn the rules. If the rules are raising your voice is not going to get you heard, then figure that out and play along. But I think it's important to know what works in what context. Not all formulas will work for the same context, but some will need to be, customized for different environments. So as an employer, I don't raise my voice. I show little emotion until I'm really pissed off. And then when I'm pissed off, you will know I'm pissed off. And I will ensure that I still don't raise my voice, but we know how to then engage, for example. And in a professional context, I don't see myself ever raising my voice, whatever's going on. But different environments require you to show up differently. So it's all about learning the game.
Yeah. No, that's very, very true. Just a quick question for all of you, actually. The rules, that big R word, we are told to manage our way through what corporate is, right? And, we're fighting for equality on all sorts of levels, for pay, for just to be seen, to be heard as a woman, but not just as a woman, to be heard in your, right as a professional. We're always fighting these. My question, which is double. One, I would like from each of you, what you think your main rule for your place of employment is, or, your industry, and what you've kind of had to manage. If it's, we don't shout in this place, maybe that's your rule. Actually, we don't raise our voice, but what kind of rules have you mastered for yourselves? And then the second part of the question is, does it change when you are addressing other women? So I will start with Shola. What is your rule?
So my rule is basically not showing emotions. So it's been, I'm trying to find the right word to use to describe it, but like I've worked with someone who had a problem working with me because his issue was that he couldn't read me. So that's my rule. I don't know. I try to separate everything in the workplace. So if I'm at work, I'm not making friends with everyone, or chit chat, or just in the workplace, just try and keep work as professional as possible. So my rule is stay professional. I think that's the word. That's how I'll term it. Stay as professional as possible, so that it kind of limits how much of me that you're saying. So if that makes you an enigma and someone can't read you, as Kanye said, not being able to read you is because when people complain they can't read you, it's because they want, they can't control you. So
Right.
If you can't control me, then I'm doing my thing. So I think my rule is just being able to separate issues, and also knowing what you're talking about. That confidence that comes with being in charge, knowing what you're talking about, it's very important in dealing with this situation. So that's my rule. So I think I've said two.
So I have a question on that.
Yeah.
So how does that play for your work, your inter-work relationships, in terms of, here in the UK, there's a culture of after-work drinks, right?
Yeah.
If people can't read you, then does that make you less likely to be invited to some of these things because there's a discomfort? And how does that affect, because as most people back to the rules in corporate, they'll say, deals are made on the golf course, for example. So if you don't play golf, then you're kind of in trouble. But if you don't really show a bit of yourself, how does that play with your inter-work relationships?
So that I think, to put it in better context, is if I'm sat at my desk, the Shola that you have sat behind the desk is different from the Shola that you meet up with after drinks. So, and then the different levels of emotions. I think that I play my role as a woman in leadership as well. So being empathic, showing empathy to staff, supporting the ladies in my team or in the company. So those little things, and just the younger ones. So if they're interns, try and pull them in and make sure that I'm able to guide them and give some kind of guidance. So in little buckets of areas, I'm able to support and show myself in that way, and then it all comes together in a way that you know different aspects of me, but the me in the meeting will definitely be different from the me you meet at the tea spot where we're making tea and having little chit chat. So yeah, just being able to separate things, and I think that's my rule, and it's worked for me. Such wood, it's fine.
So on to the women. Do you deal
Yeah.
differently with women?
Like I don't know if anyone has been okay for the people who haven't been on our previous calls. Like I said, I've not worked with women so much. So, and I've not been So it's for female bosses. I've not had female bosses like my entire career. So that's on the side. And for me, dealing with female colleagues, I think that women to women, we have the same pitch, we have the same, I think that we are able to be on the same wavelength. Again, I've not experienced it in a way that I can speak to it in that way, but I think women feed off each other's vibes. So if two women are in a meeting, I think we kind of pull from each other's energy, and so typically we should be in the same. But again, I've not been in situations with women like that.
Okay, so your rule is stay professional, don't show emotions. Kanye?
Wait, before we go to Kanye, I just want to add on the raising voice point. I'm a very soft-spoken person, but if I want my point to be heard and to be put across, I'm not lying to you, I reduce my tone and I raise my voice. And I even almost sit up sometimes, just, in that command position, when you get those cars, they get the seat is in the command, and you sit up. And when I do that, I've noticed that people listen to me better. So now my voice is commanding authority, and it's in a deeper tone and it's louder. I'm not shouting, but it is louder. But when I am just talking generally with my girls, I'm a very low spoken kind person, but I deliberately tone it up, tone it down and increase the volume just so that I can get my point across.
Okay.
So,
go ahead, Kanye.
Okay. I think the big thing is self-awareness when it comes to how you relate, when it comes to emotions in particular. I keep saying my ears get hot when I'm triggered. So I know I'm triggered and it's about to get emotional. Now, if you're not aware of that, it makes it very difficult to even begin to know what works and what doesn't work. Right? Because sometimes the horse just bolts and it's gone, and now you're needing to retract words or apologize or whatever it is, right? So I think if we can, my first rule is, and I spend a lot of time with the self-awareness piece. There's lots of personality profiling, personality preference type products and tools that you can use to help you understand yourself, because that's the start of being more emotionally aware and emotionally intelligent. And when you're then able to determine how you react to certain things and what works and what doesn't work for you, you are better able to engage. So I'm going to use this as an example. My personality is very much extroverted, very much so. Anyone who knows me will tell you that. Now, the reality is that works in some contexts, doesn't work in all contexts.
Right.
So I need to dial up certain things and dial down certain things depending on the client. So I'm also reading at the same time as I'm being an extrovert, I'm reading quite intensely, what's this client doing? What are they saying? What are they not saying? What's their body language saying? So literally I am like on, overrun, watching and engaging as I watch. So the first rule is I must know what personality type I am, and I must quickly guess what my client is, or the person I'm interacting with is, and what is going to work and what is not going to work. And what Toa touched on, I think, is brilliant. She's now aware about what works and the tone it requires to put certain things across. But I think at the same time, she's also aware when she's getting triggered and getting emotional and knowing, when to start reining herself in. So that sort of thing for me is probably the starting point. So get to know yourself in relation to how you engage with others. And there's absolutely, I saw a comment, I'm not quite sure who it was, that, when they, for example, if you're perceived to be cold, is that a good or a bad thing? I personally choose to say to you up front, listen, you're going to interact with a highly excitable individual. So brace yourself. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to adjust myself as I need to the conversation, but at least they've prepared themselves for what's to come, especially if I think they're an introverted energy, because it can be overwhelming engaging with a highly energetic person.
I like that. And it was Janine who said that. And I do like that because I think it's important to, as you really rightly said, self-awareness, but also introducing who you are so you don't have to change who you are, I think is a really key point. But just on that self-awareness, do you have an example of some of the tools? I know you said personalities. Do you have an example of maybe one of them just for the people, the participants, the people on the call?
Sure. I use Myers-Briggs as well as Insights. So Insights you can get from, there's a web page. It's called the Insights Group. If you Google them, you'll be able to find some effective and useful tools there. And maybe there's even a local organization that can help you do your Insights assessments. I know there are other free tools that I haven't engaged with, but Insights is one. The other one is Myers-Briggs, and Myers-Briggs also have a dollar-rated tool. You can do a self-assessment and they generate a report for you. What is stunning about these reports, and I have one in front of me, is they give you a sense of what the concept is of personality profiling and then the different types, and then they indicate to you what your personality profile and preferences are, what that helps with when you interact with others, what the weaknesses are of being that personality profile, and what areas of development you might have. So for example, for me, and guys, I'm going to be vulnerable here and share my strengths and weaknesses. I'll list one or two. Apparently, I exhibit impatience with disorganized individuals.
Yes, we know.
Okay, then.
I can giggle about that because I know that about myself and other people know that about me. So it makes it an easier conversation to deal and engage, right? So that's one thing. And then another one is I take on too much responsibility. Right? So that's an example. And then it says, key strength, I initiate new activities. I know that about myself. And I'm good at situational analysis. And it's literally, I've just described everything I said I do when I meet new people or when I engage with new people, when I, looking at it from an emotional intelligence perspective.
Right.
I've said quite a bit, but I think in a nutshell, that's for me are the rules. One set of rules is around self-awareness, and the other is around raising your voice. Guys, that's a big no-no. It just doesn't solve anything. Even when I'm upset, I think I err on the side of not doing it, but that's my personal rule. Relating to other women, I want to believe I don't change.
Okay.
But it's highly possible that I do. And because
would other women say that about you?
This is where I'm saying it's highly possible that I do, in that I'm trying to be quite sensitive.
Right.
To what could be coming out. So typically with my clients, I will say, you will be frustrated with me by week 3 because I've seen it happen. And these are the reasons why. And when week 3 comes and they're frustrated, I'll be like, you do recall we had this conversation and I'm sorry about that. These are the reasons. Can we try, etc., etc. Because construction is frustrating in its nature. So that's what I try and do. I warn everyone beforehand what they can anticipate.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So, Leah, just to, I just wanted to check with everyone. So, when people raising the about when people raise their voice, I think that for me, when I'm triggered or when I'm upset, and where a typical person would probably raise their voice, I think that I actually speak slower and at a lower tone at that point, because you're literally trying to get the words out without getting emotional. So maybe that's what it is, but I'm very more slow spoken, and then intentionally trying to get the words out. And because I literally have to practice what I want to say in my head before I say it, so that I'm saying exactly what I want to say and not what my head wants to say. So I don't know if that happens to other people, because I literally then talk slowly and at a lower pitch, just so that I can get my points across. So I don't know if mine is opposite of everyone's else. Towards sits up, gets louder. I think that for me, when I'm triggered in that way, I literally tone it down and speak slowly, and so that I'm getting the words out right. I'm communicating what the issues are. But yeah, I think different people deal with the emotion called anger in different ways. But yeah, thinking about it, I guess maybe other people have other ways that they deal with the emotion called anger. Yeah.
I think,
Toella.
so, okay, I'll start off by responding to Shola. I'm bad. I fight fire with fire. So when you come at me with guns blazing, I'll bring my atomic bomb. I'm one of those, when I'm really aggravated, it's not a pretty sight. I'm working on it. But I'm not that person who, in fact, maybe the only person I think that I lower my tone is probably my husband, because then he's loud, and then I'll be trying to calm him down, and then I'll bring my tone down. But most of the time, if someone is, because I'm naturally soft-spoken, so if someone is shouting and then I also raise my voice to the command, and then if they're still not listening to me, then I'll move into a shout, which is not good. But I must say I do find myself doing that. Then the tools that I use, for me as a business owner, the first thing I do is I tell myself that I've already made it in my head. So I am CEO. So when I meet, let's say, a director at one of the top 4 firms, to me, you're my colleague, I'm not gonna look up at you. So now if you're going to come, because I had an altercation with one of the directors from one of the big 4 firms. And for me, it was telling myself in my head that, you're my colleague, maybe you might even junior, because I'm CEO, you're just you're not partner. So you're not at my level. So I think for me, one tool that works for me when it comes to handling emotions is just the confidence, like know your story, know what you're talking about, because men derail us. We'll be in a meeting and we're trying to get our points across. And let's say they're losing the battle. They will throw in, oh, but you're being emotional. So just hold your ground and continue giving the facts and know your story. Be confident in what you're trying to say. And if someone says, oh, why are you being emotional? You throw it back and say, what's wrong with me being emotional? I'm passionate about what I'm saying right now. So I think because we are being told we're emotional, it throws us off. I've seen it happen in class, men, women, bantering, and then all of a sudden the word emotional is thrown. and you know the woman gets thrown off, and then now we're talking about emotions when we're no longer talking about the point at hand.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes. So for me, it's just be confident, make it in your head, stick to your facts, and also know your personality. So that Myers-Briggs test is very good. I'm studying at the moment, and one of the first things that we did was they gave us our personality tests so that we understand who we are and also understand the team that we're working in, like what ticks this person off, or what excites this person, what gives this person energy, what, you know, derails this person. So taking these personality tests, I think Kanye mentioned the Myers Briggs one, the MBTI one. BTA admin put the link in the chat. Take it, you know, assess yourself, know what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, then you know what will trigger you in a workplace. I am a extreme unstructured person. So I irritate people like Kanye. And people like Kanye irritate me. So you need to understand your own personality so that you know that, okay, you know, now this person is irritating me, but how do I manage it? If you know your personality, it will teach you how to handle it and not take it personal. The other thing is we do take things personal. We always think it's about us, when
Yeah.
really sometimes it's just, you know, the black and white. It's about the job. We need to get a job done. But sometimes we take it very personal. It's about me, or they don't like me, or, you know. So I think also just try not to take things so personal. I could have a fight with you in a boardroom. I walk out, and at the coffee station, I'll greet you and be like, two sugars, milk. We must not take things personal. With women, I don't think I've ever had that problem around women, where I feel like women were talking to women and I feel like she's getting emotional. In fact, I've never really, I don't know. When I interact with women, I think with women, I'm a bit more open to say, oh, maybe you are getting a bit emotional, but it's a different dynamic, work dynamic when I'm dealing with women. Even like now, when I think about my syndicate group, when I deal with the women, it's different from when I deal with the men. I'm a bit different.
Yeah,
I can see that. I have a, sorry,
Jan
go
says
ahead.
I've become emotional, I must calm down.
I was just about to say, should I just help you calm down for a second? It's quite interesting because I think a lot of this is the big picture of it is that we are women in male-dominated industries. That's the first thing, but they're only male-dominated because for the longest time women weren't allowed to work, and I mean way back when. And so we have entered industries that have been tailor-made for men. And the question I now need to ask is, doesn't that mean our role is either one, for us to make it our own? So instead of saying, oh, to make sure that they can hear me, I need to be less emotional, and, you know, I need to be not so cold. You can say, look, this is my personality. This is who I am. Deal with it, because I can do your job even better than you can. I mean, don't have that kind of attitude. But, or is it that we need to be able to manage the, oh, we look like we lost Shola. All right, she'll be back in a second, I'm sure. And then the second element, or is it that we need to partner with these men, and instead of having this conversation of this is how they treat us when we are in rooms, but saying to them, this is how we need to be treated when we're in these rooms. Not this is how you treat me, this is how you need to treat me. So yeah, can you?
I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to be controversial right now, because we do live in a patriarchal society. Now, there's a part of that we need to change the culture and change the dynamic, and create create our own spaces. So create your own businesses, create your own environments where you don't have to be fighting for space or a voice. But when you are in environments that were created prior to you coming along, you need to learn the rules and learn to play. Now, part of the rules for me is lobbying. There's absolutely nothing wrong with going to people before a big meeting and having a one-on-one and saying, this is what I'm thinking, what do you think? They've already bought into whatever you've agreed when you leave that room. So you don't need to be banging on the table, demanding to be heard and feeling like no one takes you seriously. That is how decisions get made. They don't get made in the boardroom. You think that's the first time the conversation is being had. It's not. That conversation has been had 3 times prior to that boardroom by people with I'll call them cabals, I'll call them little cliques, I'll call them networks, you can call them whatever you want, but that conversation is not being had for the first time. So firstly, when you have a strategy and you want something to be heard, don't be saying it for the first time in the boardroom.
Right.
Firstly. Secondly, being called emotional is not a swear word. The minute you learn to not hear that, I think you're gaining your power.
Yes.
If people use that to throw you off, great for them. It shouldn't throw you off. You're being emotional, fine. Either explain to me what that means, or let's move on, here are the facts, right? And people don't engage well with women who are not, soft-natured and soft-spoken and not seen to be, very aggressive, etc. So make peace with it. I am, excitable. I am going to speak my truth. I will not raise my voice. And here are the facts. It's not the first time we're having this conversation. And lastly, I think Toa touched on it. It's not always personal, guys. There are permanent interests in business. There are no permanent friendships. There are no permanent relationships. The minute you embrace that and know that it's not about you, you are well on your way. Find the permanent interest.
I mean, I find that quite interesting, specifically because, I mean, just back to what Toa had said about making sure that that you don't take it personally, basically. One of the things I've noticed, especially with men, and I say this to my husband all the time, is it's water off a duck's back. It happened, move on, let's keep it, let's just keep going. And I struggle with it because it's not in my nature. It's not in my nature to not take things personally. I want to get to the bottom of something, and I will dig until there's nothing left. And what I've learned for myself is, yes, don't take things personally, because it's not about myself. In fact, I was giving this example to my husband. I said, for a man, you go in and somebody says, you know what, that work was horrible that you did. And what he hears is, that work was horrible. The work that you did was horrible. For a woman, you go in most times and somebody says, that work was horrible. It is a direct correlation to everything that you are. It's like, wait, you just insulted my great-grandmother, my mother, it's like a long list of everybody. And the separation is necessary. But it's back to the technique that Kanye, you talked about. And I think I would like us to just kind of, dwell a little bit on it. That self-awareness thing. If you know who you are, if you know you are prone to dig till you get to the bottom of it, how do you step back? How do you say, okay, this is not about me. It's about the work that I have in front of me. That self-awareness. Yes, they're personality tests, but you have to do a lot more. Somebody mentioned, mindfulness. I think it was Tony who's talking about mindfulness and things that they're doing to try and make sure they're not being perceived as cold. How, what tangible things can we walk away with for today? I guess is my question, just going around. Toela. You looked ready. A little bit emotional.
No, I really think just really telling yourself it's not about me. Just starting off with that, to say I'm here to work, and them talking about my work it's not about me as an individual, it's about the work. And if I've done a shoddy job, then maybe I should, you know, reflect and think about it. So I think maybe as a takeaway, which is practical, is really tell yourself, it's not about me. I'm here to do the job. I'm here to get the work done. I mustn't make it about, it's not about me. And the minute maybe you start using the words and reaffirming it, then you can start living that truth.
Yeah.
So Leah, for me, in my consulting days, I learned this at the company we won't mention. That what does success look like is the first thing you start with. So we would sit prior to every interaction with a client and say, what does success look like? If you have that conversation with yourself, you trust me, chances are your ego will not rear its ugly head if you know success means I need to sign this deal. Success means I need these people to align and agree. Success means, you know, winning. And winning, in all likelihood, will take some, you know, humbling of self. So if you can ask yourself that question and you're self-aware and you know your triggers, you get better at it. It's not perfect. Let's not lie. The horse will bolt now and then, but you get better at managing it. So if you can clarify what that looks like and write it down and be very, very intentional about every interaction, it makes it a lot easier. Now, most people react, and Dan can talk to this, react well to when they see what's in it for them. If you can think about what's in it for most people, also that takes you that much closer to success.
Oh, I remembered one thing, sorry.
Go ahead.
Releasing your agenda. You know, sometimes we go in and we've got an agenda. Like, you know, I'm going in and I want the client to have pink walls because I know better than them. So sometimes I think when you find yourself in you know, in a battle, just maybe try to step back and release your agenda and also try and listen to what the other person is trying to say. In that moment. So maybe the other one is listening and also try to release your agenda. You can give your point 3-4 times. If someone is still not listening to you, maybe then you need to like step back and say, hey, maybe I am trying to drive my own agenda here.
Yeah. So for me, I think my takeaway quickly is being able to separate, always remember to separate work from everything else. So when you're at work, whatever happens at work, whatever feedback you get, and just also be able to take criticism and never come from a place of ego. So where you're coming from a place of ego, and it then speaks to what Tuela is saying, you're set in what you're trying to achieve in the meeting, and everything anyone tells you is you're not going to listen, and then it becomes a battle, and then everything just goes downhill from there. So yes, never come from a place of ego when you're in an open setting, and just be present. Yes, always be in the moment, and while you're in the moment, you're able to process everything as it comes through. While that happens, it helps you listen to everything coming from the voices around you, and you're able to respond accordingly.
I like that. Let's open up Q&A.
Yeah.
I think we should throw out, I mean, I think I touched on a few of some of the topics, but I do have one. Hang on one second as I try to pull this up. So what is the difference between low of emotional intelligence and arrogance?
What's the difference between, sorry?
Low emotional intelligence and arrogance. And Janine says, I work with someone who is of the impression that she displays high levels of intelligence. Oh, Janine. Yet is the first person to suggest highly punitive measures to solve issues that may not necessarily be the equivalent to the punishment. So what's the difference between low EI, low emotional intelligence, and arrogance?
Okay, so Emotional intelligence for me encompasses three things. One is there's an element of self-awareness, which I've spoken about. So you know what triggers you, what makes you your best, and what brings out your best. So know your magic. Two, knowing how to harness other people's emotions to get you to the place of success. So if you're able to interact with people and they are emotional in 10 different ways, how do you harness that energy? Because just because someone's emotional doesn't mean they don't have value to add. So leveraging that and bringing it all together is a sign of emotional intelligence. Thirdly, I think the ability to have empathy, to see people in their circumstance with their issues and be able to relate and create an environment that harnesses whatever's going on for them is part of emotional intelligence. Now, ego is a whole nother construct around the sense of self, which is probably inflated and gets highly affected by anything that doesn't align with its thought process. So that's how I would differentiate the two. Guys, please don't shoot me, right? I don't have a dictionary in front of me, but that's how I would distinguish the two. And one is pretty self-serving, whereas the other is about appreciating that human beings come as emotional beings, and how do I harness that?
I mean, I'm interested, just Janine, I don't know if you're still there. Maybe you could just really quickly put out there, because I think that's an experience. You did say that it's someone you work with and that so it's a woman. Again, I'm wondering if this is basically the topic. Is this her trying to not show herself as being too emotional in terms of the way she's reacting and you know, punitive measures, trying to say, look, I have it down and I'm well focused? Is that her just basically trying to not show too much emotion?
Leah.
Shola?
Yeah, it could be the person thinking that I've read the room. So that arrogance can be from, I know what everyone else is thinking. So you've read the room, you know, so you know, that from on the flip of what Kanye is saying is where she's reading the room to know how to deal with people. But from a place of arrogance is, I've read the room, I know what you're all thinking, it's done. So basically, yeah, I think that's the difference between the arrogance and emotional intelligence. If it was coming from a place of emotional intelligence, you'll be reading the room to align with or to deal with what those people are feeling, the feelings of the people in the room. But from a place of arrogance, it's more of shutting down everyone because you've read them and there's nothing else. That's it. I'll differentiate it actually.
Okay.
Did Janine respond?
Yes, she says we experience her to be quite harsh rather than emotional, or rather than high EQ, which I guess. And then, interesting. I can't see how you can be an entrepreneur without being arrogant. You have to believe in yourself and be stubborn. Is one of the messages that has gone up there. Is that, I mean, believing yourself and being stubborn, are those two different things?
That's probably a cultural thing. So if you're in Nigeria, you have to be those things. I don't know if it works that way in SC as well, or in the UK, but even in Nigeria, you have to have that level, not the little bit of arrogance, like as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to sell the BS and you have to have people buy it. So.
Well, that's everywhere. Look at the United States of America.
Exactly, right? Right now.
People have bought that BS.
Yep. Kool-Aid, drinking it.
Sorry, I shouldn't go into politics at this point. But I come from a family of very, very strong women. So I go into the room. I am one of the knowing people in the room who just will not stop talking. Because I feel like whatever room I'm in, I am meant to be there. And that's where it triggers off into arrogance for me, because I walk in and I'm like, well, if you're here, I have no problem with being here as well. You know, so what, you have, 25 Oscars, your name is still Meryl Streep or Meryl, you know what I mean? Like, I'm an actor, so obviously that's the example I'm going to give, but it doesn't change, as Toa said, it doesn't change for me though. I walk in and the CEO is the same as the janitor. right? Doesn't matter if you're mopping floors, I'll treat you the exact same way because you're human. And I don't know when that will change. And I think that's something that is really key for us to kind of take away about the self-awareness, which I think is such a big point regarding being called emotional. So ego, so ego, as one of the questions that was asked, as one of the questions that was asked, like, you know, about your ego isn't about how people perceive you, because everybody will perceive through their own lenses. Your ego is how you feel about yourself. So if you're walking in and you're confident, somebody else might be like, my goodness, that person is so confident. The other person will be like, that person is so arrogant. But you need to be aware of who you are.
Entrepreneurs being arrogant versus confident, guys, it's for me, it's very straightforward. If you know what you're talking about, I can speak for myself. It's my 5th year in business. Okay, now I'm conscious of what I don't know. So I have my conscious incompetence. That's what it is. So I know what I need to go and learn. That being said, being a salesperson is a skill. So learning to pick up the lingo and knowing how to package yourself and how to sell it and relate to others is important. Does that mean it comes packaged as arrogance? If that's how you choose to interpret it, great. But it's not necessarily the same thing for me.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Let's just go through some of these.
I'll just
go ahead, Tora.
I'll answer Nomdeni's question to say, are there instances where I had to reprimand my husband at work, and was it not awkward? Yes, there are instances where I would have to reprimand, yes, but I think it's the way that it's being done. I mean, I've heard people say it's very interesting, the dynamics that you have with your husband, that the way you work, the way you talk to him. If I see he's out of line, I will tell him. So I guess that is the reprimanding at work. No, it's not awkward, because sometimes, you know, we all have blind spots, because he's also reprimanded me sometimes. So in the beginning, yeah, it does get a bit awkward, but over time you go back to, what does success look like? What are we trying to achieve here? And if he's out of line, I will tell him, you were out of line there. Yeah.
I think that's harder than it seems for most, to be honest. I can't imagine having to do that. Even just correcting a regular coworker, let alone your husband. And doesn't that come back into the house later?
So for me, I'm still learning, guys, about not bringing things into the house, but I need to learn. He's very good, like very good. Let's say he was all laughing and caring in the house, he made me breakfast. Then the next thing he'll be like, where's that report? I'm like, oh, what? I'll be a minute ago. So he knows how to separate that boundary.
I could see that. I seem to be having a bit of technical difficulties. I cannot see the questions on the Q&A.
So I think,
so the ladies, I'm going to trust you to help me out with those questions.
I think Kumo's zone isn't really a question, but the next one, Clara's zone, is a multi-strong question. And I think the second part of the question actually speaks to our topic the next month. I don't know what you guys think. So do we want to answer that, or get her to come back next month to ask that question? So, and I mean, a lot of it ties to how to deal with, or basically the last bit, do multinationals and government institutions exhibit same anomalies? It's basically how to play the game if I read the question right. So I don't know, Tanya, Toa, does that read?
Which question is this from Tony?
Clara's question.
Clara, hi panel, it's not about me, really great advice on the very senior levels you ladies are in, or have you been in other big companies? Have you ever had to share feedback with a colleague? You may have lost their cool, gotten very emotional in a large meeting, and you had to share the constructive feedback with them. How did they receive feedback? Did they use the learnings in future meetings? Was your relationship affected in the long term? Lastly, do multinationals and government institutions also exhibit the same anomalies?
So
Okay,
speaking to the last bit is what I mean by that. It speaks to our next topic, if that makes sense. But
okay.
the first part of the question, and I think it's about being able to give feedback and how people have dealt with it. Have I had someone lose their cool while giving feedback? Not lose cool per se, disagreed totally, and we had time off again. Let's take it offline, smaller group, have a conversation, and agree to disagree. So sometimes we agree to disagree, and but I did see in this situation, I did see the person correct themselves in future endeavors. So probably was from a place of ego not accepting, but I still saw the difference. So you came back the next time and you were better. What I criticized you about, you corrected it at the next session. So not accepting at that time, maybe from a place of ego, but it wasn't not a situation where someone lost their cool. So yeah, that's.
I think taking it offline is always a good idea. I think giving feedback in a public setting never works.
Yeah.
Another question, do you believe emotional intelligence can be taught?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there are courses on it, yeah.
Yes. Start by being self-aware.
Yeah.
So
learning, understanding your like going through the personality test. That's you're teaching yourself, you're understanding yourself. And so you're basically teaching yourself how to deal with situations based on your personality.
I mean, not to dwell on this topic, obviously we can move on, but if emotional intelligence can be taught, what is the time frame? Because it's something that is so intertwined with how you were raised as well. If you were raised to know that women are beneath you, like one course on emotional intelligence is not going to do anything for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, so what kind of time frame?
Yeah.
So my first lesson on emotional intelligence is empathy. And how to be empathetic is to put yourself in the other person's shoe. So if someone says something, if you say something to the other person, you think to say, okay, if that person said the same thing to me, how would that have made me feel? Or just try and put yourself in that person's shoes. So for me to learn emotional intelligence, maybe the first step is to be empathetic. And the best way I know how to be empathetic is to put myself in the other person's shoes, as well as listening. Like actively listening to what someone is saying. So I definitely believe that it can be taught, and you need to have a growth mindset. By growth mindset, I mean you need to let go of your strongholds, you know, those values, beliefs that you grew up knowing, and breaking them and saying, you know what, I'm going to teach my brain to learn new things. So that's another thing is have a growth mindset, and try and let go of those strongholds that keep you.
So for me, Leah, there is no time frame actually. It's as long as it takes.
Okay.
So it's about the intention. If somebody wants to be emotionally mature, they will take the steps required to become more emotionally mature. Now, if you're engaging with someone who's not emotionally mature, you need to be emotionally mature enough to know the difference. And therefore, knowing what their agenda is, if you choose to serve it, great. They're probably going to be a lot more amenable to you and what you're saying. But if you choose to be, not, then be prepared for that battle, because that's also a choice. So the thing I think most people get wrong, and I've seen this happen so many times, is you don't know your boss's agenda, which means you are at counterpurpose at all times. You are constantly arguing, going against what it is they're trying to achieve. Trust me, you are going to have an uphill battle if you don't know your boss's agenda. So take the time to learn it and make sure you are serving it. I'm not saying, don't have your own ethics and values, etc. I'm saying know why you're there and how you're going to win there.
Yeah.
And one of the ways you win is knowing the agenda and serving it.
Yeah. One of the other questions that I've just seen is, have you guys ever gotten so upset and frustrated that you find yourself crying or close to tears and then more pissed as you feel betrayed by your body? That's my release, by the way. That's the only way that I can express anger is with tears. So I always try to exit myself out of the room when that happens, when I feel it rising, because the tears come and then it's over. Then I start yelling, but that's my cue. Kanye, just to go back, I think a week ago or something, we were discussing this about your signal before you get into anger. Do you remember?
Yeah, my ears get hot. Like they tingle from the bottom. By the time I feel it here, I know it's about to go down. So what I try and do is, before I get to that place, I'm trying to be aware, and I say try, it's operative word, it's not perfect. I try and be aware of reminding myself that what does success look like?
Right.
I navigate myself out of this hot ear situation. I know there are schools of thought rather, that say people must see you lose your doot now and then. There are people who believe in that, and if it's effective and it works, great, guys. It's about knowing the rules. So for me, I'm very aware when I'm about to get triggered, and I actually see it. So like you, I try and extract myself from the situation. Again, controversial. I will not cry in the workplace. I don't think it serves me. I don't think in a male-dominated environment, it sends a message that people will, admire or respect. So that's a personal choice. But I will choose to, if I'm going to be emotional, I will extract myself from the situation, go be emotional, and then come back.
So I think as a takeout, try and know what triggers you. It could be certain words that someone says that really, really grind your tits to say, oh my word, he just went there.
Yeah.
Or she just went there. So know what really, really ticks you off or triggers you. For me, my eyes go red, and then people will be like, "Oh, your eyes, are you okay? Like your eyes are red." Then I know, oh, I'm very mad, and then I cry. I don't like it, but I have cried many times. In front of people, in meetings, I will cry, the tears will be down my cheeks, I'll stand up and I'll leave. So for me, it's happened to me many times. And this is in my own business and when I was working in corporate. I used to work for one of the big IT firms. I'm not going to mention their names. And my boss was talking about my performance review with my colleague. And I remember specifically I had asked if they would pay for my MBA. And so she was talking about this with my colleague, and another colleague overheard and told me. So I called up a meeting with my boss and I confronted her and I said, this is what I've heard. She got emotional. She started crying. I started crying. It was a mess. We were both crying, very emotional, very heated. I laid a grievance against her. And I must tell you guys, it was a very, our relationship was not the same after that. But the thing is, I did give her the feedback to say, look, I was not comfortable with you talking about my performance review with my colleague and in an open, office, and other people got to hear it. I mean, it came to me. So when I was giving her the feedback, obviously she was denying, and then I got upset and I started crying, and it was not a nice time, but I think we learned to respect each other's boundaries after that session. So for me, I know the crying in the office is not nice, but even with her, her eyes would get red, her cheeks would get flushed. Then I know she's upset, or she's getting emotional, or it's about to go down now. So I think just know your body, because a lot of the time emotions are displayed through our bodies. Some people sweat, your eyes get red, your ears get hot, your hands also get hot.
Yeah.
So just know your body and know that here I'm about to get emotional.
No, for sure. I mean, honestly, this topic is amazing, and we could keep going on, and there's so many additions and things that we can add on. But I think we need to be conscious of everybody's time, and I believe we are almost trying to wrap up here. Just a few takeaways again for everybody. The main things, again, the rules for corporate about, staying professional, self-awareness, which is the big one. And then just be confident, know your space, know where you belong, where, you're supposed to be where you are, and just manage yourself in the best way that you know how, and don't let others dictate who you are supposed to be, I think is the main takeaway. Yeah. So anything from anybody else really quickly?
Shola, maybe just end by telling us about next week's topic.
Yay!
All right, yes. So we're excited about this one. We're talking about playing the games. So in the corporate world, for you to get ahead, we've realized that it's a game, and you need to learn the rules of the game. You need to know how to play the game. You need to have a strategy to get ahead in the corporate world. So the topic for next week is understanding the game and then winning in the politics of corporate. So basically, please stay tuned. We'll send out invites again.
Please like our Facebook page. We've got a YouTube page. This will be on our YouTube channel. If you want to go back, get some insights, listen to us, and look at our beautiful, fabulous faces, please log in, subscribe.
We haven't been banned, so we're still rolling.
Yes, good jokes.
We're not Donald Trump.
And guys, please send us any questions, emails, suggestions to info@letsconnect.co.za, and connect is with a K. Like our Instagram page, it's @letsconnect_. Also, please share, guys. Let's have a conversation. It feels like an hour and a bit is not enough. Every time we talk, guys, the questions are so many, and we want to get to all of them, and we can't. So please do send us an email or comment on our pages if you'd like to connect even further.
Yes.
And it's next month, not next week. Ne?
Next month. It's first Wednesday of every month. Sorry, ladies. We're excited.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for joining. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Panelists, are we staying behind?
We'll log out and then we'll reconvene.
All right. See everyone next month.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.